You're muted.
Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I said that I just put a link in the chat for a translation of Catullus. Um, I actually like the one that I'm linking you to way better than the one that's in the book. I think the one that's in the book is a little too restrained. We'll compare them in a moment, so you'll see the difference. Yeah, today's class, we're just going to kind of take a brief look at two of the most famous poets from the ancient world. So far, we have read epic poems like the Aeneid and the Iliad. Uh, Epic poems all have their own conventions, right? Larger than life characters. Um, you have these poems calling on a you have these poems calling on a muse for divine inspiration, like both the Iliad and the Aeneid. The poet was like, I cannot tell the story through my own imagination. I need divine help to tell the story. You had these similes where the poet would sort of stop and compare something to something else. That often happens in those poems. We're not done with epic poetry just yet. Dante's Inferno is written in an epic style, as well as Paradise Lost, which we're going to do at the very end of the course. So you guys, throughout the class, are going to read most of the big ones. So, a writer like Sappho and Catullus, they're a bit of an interesting, a bit of a difference. Whenever we think of something that, like what a poem looks like today, it's very similar to like what Sappho and Catullus are doing. Sappho's writing um, lyric poetry, lyrics. It's meant to be sung. It's meant to be sort of performed. Catullus is. I like to say that Catullus is kind of the first shock jock of literature. His his writing is very much has no restraint to it. It's meant to you're meant to kind of go along with the ride with all of his emotional experiences and dealing with his failed relationship with Lesbia. Lesbia is his mistress. So let's talk about Catullus first. I can't help it. Let's. He's always a writer I'm excited to talk about. Um, Sappho is much more restrained. Sappho is much more elegant and restrained than Catullus. To kind of ground us, I actually found a pretty good video that I'll show you the first few minutes of. Um, just about sexuality in Rome. I think it's a really good video to kind of explain um, how Roman mores were a lot different than mores we had today. So let's take a quick look. If the audio doesn't play or something, one of you guys tell me. I don't want to make you sit in awkward silence while I'm trying to watch a video or while I'm trying to show you a quick video.
Change in sexual values that took place in the West in the 20th century. But this was not the first sexual revolution, and it wasn't even the most radical. In fact, another far more massive sexual revolution occurred nearly 2,000 years earlier when Christianity took root in the 1st century AD and prompted a complete overhaul of the sexual ethics of the dominant superpower of the day, the Roman Empire. In the Roman Empire, what was sexually permissible and what was taboo were almost entirely based on your social status. If you were a higher status free man, you could have sex with almost anyone you wanted, as long as the other person was not also of high social status or was seen to be the property of someone of high social status.
In the Roman world, Harvey Weinstein would have been completely unremarkable. The idea that a rich, high-status man should have sexual access to his social inferiors, in particular his slaves, was completely unquestioned in the era before Christianity.
Sex with other men, women, boys, and girls was in most cases socially acceptable for these elite men, as long as the high-status man was considered the active partner and not the passive partner.
Hi, I'm JT and I made Result Hunter, the search engine for conservatives. Let me just tell you what it does. First of all, big tech right now is run by a bunch of elitist people who all have...
Next time you want a boy, buy one at the market.
There were many victims of the Romans' cultural sexual hierarchy. Slaves often fared the worst, especially children. For a Roman upper-class man, there was no concept of the sexual abuse of a slave. Slaves were merely property to be used and abused at will. A slave boy or girl was viewed much the same way that many might view pornography today, as a convenient outlet to quickly act on sexual lust. The Roman Empire built an enormous slave system, and slave ownership impacted nearly every element of Roman society, including using slaves' bodies as sexual playthings for their brutal masters. The mechanics of Roman sexuality were shaped by the presence of unfree bodies across the social spectrum, writes the historian Kyle Harper. The ubiquity of slaves meant pervasive sexual availability. Slaves were subjected to untrammeled sexual abuse. Today, we understand consent to be an important standard by which we determine whether a sexual act is ethical or not. But for the myriad of slaves who served as objects for the sexual acts of their freeborn owners, the concept of consent was totally unheard of.
Pay what's owed, and the girl is all yours.
Largely because of the widespread availability of slaves, pederasty, like pedophilia, or sex between men and young boys, was also common in Rome. Since sex was based on social status, slave boys served as objects for their master's brutal lust, cast aside when they grew their first beard to be replaced by a younger boy. And while freeborn elite men had broad sexual license, the sexuality of free women was highly controlled under Roman rule. Women were nearly always under a man's power, whether he be her father or husband. And in many circumstances, she couldn't object if her husband chose to kill their child because it was malformed or an unwanted girl. If a father caught his daughter in the act of adultery, he was allowed to kill his daughter and her lover. Into this sexually abusive world entered Christianity. Imagine being a Roman slave or a low-status woman and hearing the teaching that all human beings, male and female, are made in the image of God. Or the Apostle Paul's words in Galatians for the first time: there is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Instead of basing sexual ethics on social status, power, and dominance, Christian teaching based sexual ethics on the equal value of every human being. And it upheld freely chosen, one woman, one man, monogamous marriage as the only acceptable context for any sexual activity. Marriage is the covenant that unites a man and a woman to one another and to any children that may proceed from their union. Instead of forced marriage, Christianity required that each spouse freely choose the union. Instead of tolerating sexual infidelity in marriage, Christianity required that each spouse be faithful, the man equally so as the woman. Instead of seeing people of lower classes, women or children as property, Christianity required that they be treated as persons with the same dignity as anyone else. Any sexual act outside of the marriage bed was forbidden. And for those who married, Christian spouses, husbands and wives were taught that their bodies belonged to one another as gifts, the husband's body to the wife, and vice versa. Everyone, male or female, high status or slave, was called to live by the same sexual morality. This was a radical teaching that required a dramatic transformation in the treatment of children, lower-class men, and women. To Christians, slaves, children, prostitutes, women, they all had the same moral standing as freeborn or noble men. Abortion and infanticide.
I'll stop it there. I kind of just wanted to give you that video just to give you some context for how radically different it was in the ancient world. I've kind of alluded to it before with the Greeks, but if anything, the Romans got more wild with it all than even the Greeks did. Catullus, when he's writing about his love for this woman, Lesbia, she is not inferior to him. She is a woman who is an equal to him. Catullus was a high class poet. She too is a high class person. She is married to somebody else, but she and Catullus are having a fling. So that's kind of what the entire crux of all of his poems are about. Take a look here at the link that I sent you. Turn to the book, page 858. That's where Catullus's poems start in the book. Let's see how many people we got today. 3, 4, 6. Hold on 1 second. All right, so here's kind of what I want to do. I'm going to break you guys off into groups in the breakout rooms, and what I want you to do is kind of look at one of Catullus's poems in the book, and then look at the equivalent of it on the link that I sent you, and compare, just maybe kind of discuss with each other, compare and contrast, like which version of it do you think is preferable? Which version kind of gets the idea out that that Catullus might be trying to get out easier? One is probably a little more graphic than another. Does that make a difference to the effect? So, well, I guess what I'm trying to do is I want to kind of have a little lesson on translation with you guys. That's not something that we've talked a lot about in this class, and that's something I kind of want to do. So I'm going to break you into the rooms. Let me see. Okay. All right, so one group, Angelina, Emily, and Kaylee, I'm giving you guys poem 16. So compare and contrast the difference in your group between the poem 16 that's in our book versus the poem 16 that's on the link. Lucy, Nick, and Raquel, I'm giving you guys poem 5. Allison, Benny, Carmen, and Delana, I'm giving you guys poem 2. I'm going to break you up. You can read both. Then you guys can kind of compare and contrast to see which one you guys think is preferable. Then we'll check back in. Okay. Be sure to switch over, Lucy. All right, everybody, let's check back in and discuss these. Let's start with Emily and Emily's group. Talking about poem 16. Poem 16 is definitely the most vivid of the ones in the collection. So what findings did you guys come up with on this one, Emily?
I basically said that, like, this poem out of all poems should, like, why didn't they skip this one since they skip around a lot? But I guess it's just, like, important. But I just basically made the, like, distinction that the book is more, like, Bible-ish.
Mm-hmm. Kind of got that Old Testament sort of vibe about it.
And, like, the online version, it's more of, like, our modern books that we read, because, like, with romance books and everything, so that's just how.
Yeah, and it's more, like, straight up.
Yeah, it's just, like, not beating around the bush.
The online poem that you gave us is definitely, like, a more vulgar read than the one in the book.
Yeah, I will. You want me to read it, Kaylee, to get the cringe going?
Oh my God!
So just some differences here. The first 3 lines of poem 16 in the book says, "I'll fuck the pair of you as you prefer it, oral Aurelius, anal furious, who read my verses but misread their author. You think that I'm effeminate since they are?" So what he's doing in this poem, he's talking about Aurelius and Furious are 2 guys who are trying to censor his poems. They're trying to get his poems banned and all that because of their graphic nature. So that's the translation in the book. Translation in on the link I gave you. Aurelius and Furious, little cocksuckers. I'll fuck you up the ass and stuff your mouths. You who think since my poems are delicate, I'm less than chaste. So a big difference between the two.
I still can't take that seriously.
I thought it was interesting. Like, this is kind of off topic, but I thought it was
You faded off there, Emily. There you go.
I think it's interesting, like, how the poems all, like, kind of align with each other in a way, and, like, so it's just, like, frequent, like, it's basically the timestamps, and I think that was, like, kind of cool.
How do you mean?
Like, where it was talking about Lesbia, and then, like, for a couple ones it was talking about her, and then the sparrow, and then I think, yeah, it was a bird or something. And then it got into, like, how people were going against him and stuff, and then it just continued through that. And it showed, like, how he fought it and stuff. So
You're sort of seeing a narrative thread throughout all of his poems.
yeah.
Since we're on that subject, the next group did poem 5. That was about poem 5 is a lot more reserved than poem 16. But let's see Lucy, that was your group. What did you guys discuss there?
Yeah, so it's pretty short, and I I'm not gonna lie, I ran out the door today to drop my kids off at school and forgot my book, so I looked up another translation. So I'm gonna send that link, and then, but yeah, I guess I could kind of go. We could go along the same vein as the group before.
Yep.
Even this wasn't as vulgar. The link you sent was, I don't know the right word. Less reserved than
Than the one that
the one I sent, or the one that I read.
Okay, I'm reading the one that you read now. The one that Lucy linked us to. Let us live, my lesbia. Let us love. And all the words of the old and so moral, may they be worth less than nothing to us. Suns may set and suns may rise again, but when our brief light is set, night is one everlasting sleep. Give me 1,000 kisses, 100 more, another 1,000, and another 100. And when we've counted up the many thousands, confuse them so as not to know them all, so that no enemy may cast an evil eye by knowing that there were so many kisses. The book version, Lesbia, let us live only for loving, and let us value at a single penny all the loose flap of senile busybodies. Suns, when they set, are capable of rising, but at the setting of our own brief light, night is but one sleep from which we never waken. Give me 1,000 kisses, then 100, another 1,000 next, another 100, 1,000 without pause, and then 100, until when we have run up our thousands, we will cry bankrupt, hiding our assets from ourselves and any who would harm us, knowing the volume of our trade in kisses. The main difference between the one that you linked us to, Lucy, and the one that I read in the book. The book one has this image of bank. It has this like money thing in it. It talks about going bankrupt. Compare that to the end of the poem 5 on the one that you linked us to. There's nothing like that at all. I don't know if you see what I'm saying.
Yeah, and there's nothing like that in the other link that you sent either.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, the other ones are very different too. It says, "As we kiss those passionate thousands, let us lose track in our oblivion. We will avoid the watchful eyes of stupid, evil peasants, hungry to figure out how many kisses we've kissed." Where did that one get the whole thing about peasants? That's the meaning of that one seems very different even than the other two.
Yeah, I feel like they all get across, like, maybe some lovers, like, being free to love each other how they want, and it's like, I don't care what anyone else thinks, but it is really interesting how they all say it so differently.
Yeah, go back to the poem 16 that we talked about a second ago. We talked about this in Emily, Kaylee, and Angelina's group as well. The last few lines of that poem as well were very different from the one I linked you to compared to the book. The one in the book says, "But you, because my poems beg for kisses, thousands of kisses, you think I'm a fairy? I'll fuck the pair of you as you prefer it." Of course, there's a graphic that the image is more graphic at the end, but another difference between the 16 in the book versus the 16 on the link You still think because I've spoken of a good many kisses, I'm somehow less than a man? So the one on the link uses both of them are talking about masculinity, right? They're saying Catullus is kind of saying here, you think because I write about these emotional subjects, you think I'm effeminate? You think so? The one in the link says you think I'm less than a man. The one in the book uses the word fairy, right? Of course, that's a gay slur. So that's a pretty wild difference in translation as well. That was a curious choice for the editor in the book. If you want my opinion on that one, I think the website one is probably a better translation in that regard, because the ancient Romans would not have used that slur. Homosexuality was very common and accepted in ancient Rome, so they would not have used that as a slur. So I don't know why that the editor in the book made that choice whenever they were doing their translation. Let's see if I can I'm gonna see if I can find that one on the link you sent me to, Lucy. Let's see what that one does.
Yeah, it seems like maybe it might depend on like when it was translated and what the culture was at the time, I guess, for the words they use.
I understand changing the words to the culture or whatever, but that's like a vast change of words. It's almost sounds like different poems completely. I don't think it's a difference in interpretation. It's completely different. That doesn't make sense to me.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, you're still talking about masculinity, but you're bringing the whole issue of sexual identity into it. Andy, so yeah, it is very radically different. The one Lucy linked me, those last few lines of 16 say, I don't speak the boys, but the hairy ones who can't move their stiff loins. You who read all these 1,000 kisses, you think I'm less of a man? It says, I'll fuck you and then I'll bugger you. So that one's kind of that one's more similar to the one on the other link compared to the one that's in our book. It even that one adds the image of hairy old men to it. So that's the difference of the one Lucy linked us to.
It also like calls them names in the beginning. I don't think they did that in the other poem.
Nope. Aurelius the pathetic and sodomite furious.
Yeah.
The book calls him anal furious. That doesn't. This book translation's not very good at all. I don't know what they were thinking. But I like what you said earlier, Lucy, about a lot of it. I think it was you who said that, Lucy. A lot of it depends on the time that it was being translated and their values that they had during the time they were translating it.
Yeah, like I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I don't even know what I'll bugger you. I don't even know what that would mean if I didn't have the other translations to go off of.
That's a euphemism for anal sex.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. You learn all kinds of random stuff in Catholic. Yeah, that's like biblical euphemism for like that sort of language as a euphemism for that.
I imagined it with. It seems like something a British person would say.
Yeah, we the last group didn't get much of a chance to talk about poem 2. Just to we can kind of do that out loud here. The one on the one in the book says, "Sparrow, you darling pet of my beloved, which she caresses, presses to her body or teases with the tip of one sly finger until you peek at it in tiny outrage. For there are times when my desired shining lady is moved to turn to you for comfort, to find, as I imagine, ease for ardor, solace, a little respite from her sorrow. I can only play with you as she does and be relieved of my tormenting passion." So Catullus is jealous of Lesbia's pet bird, pretty much. The one on the link Lucy sent says, "Sparrow, my sweet girl's delight, whom she plays with, holds to her breast, whom greedy she gives her little finger to, often provoking you to a sharp bite. Whenever my shining desire wishes to play with something she loves, I suppose while strong passion abates, it might be a small relief from her pain. Might I toy with you as she does and ease the cares of a sad mind?" So I'm noticing some differences. Let's see. Let's check the link one, the one I linked you to now. "Sparrow, old Lesbia's sweet bird, whom she keeps near to stroke at her bosom, to whom with delight she offers a restless finger, prodding for bites, tiny wounds. If ever my fiery lady needs some distraction from passion's sweet pain, oh, that I could play with you myself, little sparrow. You would free my thoughts from despair." The differences in this one are kind of subtle, but there's nonetheless some differences. The one that Lucy linked us to, um, I think it's kind of got the most vivid imagery. He's jealous because she's holding the bird up next to her breast. He imagines that's him right up there next to her breast. Um, that image of she puts her finger on the bird's mouth. He imagines that's her putting. He imagines that's his mouth that she's putting her finger on. I think the one Lucy links us to is probably the most vivid, in kind of giving us that image. There's not a lot of differences in the content between the three for this one. I think this one's more or less a matter of which one gives you the most striking image in our language. Catullus wrote in Latin, and Latin's an interesting language to try to translate. That's my foreign language. I'm pretty good with Latin. Different translators can come to different results very easily. Like I said, I think what Lucy said was true. Depends on the time and place. As Mandy said as earlier as well, you run the risk of whenever you do translate something, you run the risk of changing the meaning of the text entirely, which it seems like this book version of this did. So yeah, I once started a class with Catullus. Like this was like week 1 reading, and I had a bunch of angry people calling the dean, trying to mad about it. I was like, well, tough cookies. It's my class. Kiss my butt.
You should have told him to go read poem 16.
I know. I think that's probably the one that got him fired up, ready to stone me. That wasn't at Bluefield State. That was at another college where that happened. People were a little more uptight over there. If you can't have a little fun talking about stuff like this, then what's the point? What's the point, right? Well, that was a fun class. I enjoyed that. I guess the lesson I'm trying to showcase to you guys, and especially in a world literature class, translation makes a big difference. I've alluded to it before when we talked about the Iliad and stuff, but it's kind of easy to see that in a vacuum when you're looking at a really short poem like this. So hopefully now you'll think about it a little more than you did before. The difference whenever you read an author who isn't written in English originally can make a big difference. I was told by a professor I know who's Italian is his native language, that we English people just can't get Dante. You have to know Italian to get him. So I'm like, well, darn, I don't have time to learn Italian just to read Dante. All right, so kind of transition us into the next week. Remember, or the paper deadline has come. If you still haven't submitted it yet, if you want to, go ahead. Otherwise, it'll count as your drop. And next Monday, when we get to class next Monday, I will go over a midterm review with you guys to get you ready for the midterm. And you'll be taking your midterm on Proctor track next week. And cross my heart and hope to die I will get caught up on some of those, on the little few things I owe you guys this weekend. So you should get those back to me this weekend. So between now and then, you don't really have anything to do other than maybe, I would say, other than maybe just kind of start reviewing some of the stuff that we've read, refresh yourself on it. You don't have to do that too in depth or anything. Just kind of refresh yourself. Maybe just look through our Moodle shell, scroll through it, refresh yourself. Maybe go watch some of those supplemental videos on some of these readings I posted. That'll just get the cognitive wheels turning. And that'll get you ready for the midterm review next week. So if you got an hour to kill at some point, just go through and scroll and review some of the stuff we've read. So next Monday, that's what we'll do. We'll review the midterm. And then next Wednesday, instead of a session, I'll give you guys time to take the midterm. I will see you guys next time. Go ahead, Mandy.
I just had 3 questions for you. One, the platform for the midterm, I've never heard or dealt with that before. How is that different from like our Moodle exams and those kind of things? Do I have to download something to take that?
Yes, Proctor Track is on Moodle, but it's a separate program, and basically you have to, whenever you use it, you have to turn your camera on, and it locks your screen and all this stuff. It's a software it's an anti-cheating software. It's often used in online classes and stuff. Yeah, you haven't ever used that before in an online?
No, I'd never even heard of it before, so that's why I was like, what is that? And then the other thing, the last class, I was trying to get that second thing loaded to you, my log I sent, but I don't know if you were able to get that. It's got like I sent the link on there, but when I tried to save it, it was a PDF. So I listed it as an editor. I wanted to make sure you got the log, and then make sure you got that other thing that you did not have last week. What was it? Not the log, the paper. I got the drop one box, and then that other paper that I was trying to get to you the last class. I just want to make sure you have both of those.
Yeah, the Greek drama log, I got that.
Okay.
What was the other thing?
The drop box.
The paper in the Dropbox?
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. Yep, I got both.
Okay, and the logs, are they, I know I was trying to get it fixed where you could edit them and stuff. Did you receive them the way you need them?
Yep.
Okay, just making sure.
Good deal. You're doing it all right.
Just making sure. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
See you, Mandy.
Bye-bye.